Hey guys, Lucas from iExplore here. We're back after a nice long absence. We've been kind of detained by various things, Axel and I, but we're here today shooting in Shinjuku. Going to do some street photography. And today I want to talk about something that's been on my mind over the last few months or maybe even years. And that is this idea of like getting better at photography or anything in general, and what it even means to get better or why we should get better at things. So I want to talk about that today. But first, just want to remind you guys, if you like what we do and you're interested in supporting this channel, pretty much the best way to do that is if you're in Tokyo, take a workshop with us. There's me, of course, conducting workshops, but we also have a team of very talented photographers who can take you around and do some photography around the city. Of course, we also have a map of Tokyo photo spots that we've been promoting for a while. It's available on our site. That can be helpful if you're traveling here as well. And finally, those of you who support us on Patreon, that's a huge help for us. We appreciate you very much as well. And one more thing, I do have a book that has been released recently called Tokyo Unseen. You can get it online or in bookstores, so please check that out as well. I'd be very grateful. All right, let's get on to the video.
iExplore.
All right, so we're gonna get back in the groove of things. I'm gonna talk about those ideas, in a moment, but I wanted to start the video here in this spot because first, it's just a cool street with a nice background, but also there's something here that I've been wanting to shoot, and actually I'm missing the moment right now, but maybe there'll be another one. So basically, there's this entryway here, and like when people come out of it, they look really cool. So let's see if I can make that work. I've been trying to get a good photo here for quite a long time. And when someone comes out and they like touch the glazed glass, it looks really cool. Let's see here. Oh. That was not bad. I realize I'm a little too close. I should be a little farther to get more of the window so I could see the person entirely. But of course now there's nobody there. Yeah, every once in a while in a workshop I come by here and we spend a couple of minutes trying to get somebody coming out of here. The reason I'm attracted to it is like on one or two occasions there was like a great moment where somebody pushed the glass a certain way and like you could see their hand on the window. And then of course when I'm there to capture it, it doesn't happen that way. It's just kind of random and different, but oh well. That's street photography for you. You just gotta try and see what you get. Okay. Maybe I'll try it like directly from the front. That might be kind of cool. Oh, someone's coming. Nice. Well, that was kind of cool. Directly from the front might actually be better. I kind of had this instinct to shoot it from an angle, but from the front was pretty cool. Yeah, farther is even better because I get a little more of the... Oh, here we go, someone's coming. You get a little more of like the surrounding context, and that's nice. And I can always crop, right? All right, that one was all right. I think the one with the lady was probably the best, but yeah, it's good. Anyone else coming? All right, let's move on. Just a little thing I wanted to try since we've arrived in Shinjuku, and Axel and I were thinking about where to start this video, and I thought, I got the perfect place because there's a nice view and I can try that shot. But anyway, so getting better at photography. What am I talking about here? Now, I've always been wondering, well, not always, but like I said, recently it kind of popped into my brain, like I'm always trying to get better, and I even made a video, we made a video a while back, like how to get better at street photography. I've written blog posts about it, like how to do this. But then I started thinking like, well, why? Like, why do we need to try so hard to get better at something? And then, even more importantly, what does that even mean? Like, of course, art is very subjective, photography is very subjective. So, and of course you could think about just the kind of hard skill of photography. So how to use your camera, okay, you can get better at understanding all the technical things. But the technical things are like the tip of the iceberg, right? It's just like, it's like 1% of what you're doing photography, in my opinion, is the technical things, at least when it comes to street photography. Because it's more about seeing, it's more about exploring the world and looking for those moments and putting yourself in situations where you're able to even see those moments in the first place. and then potentially capturing them. And then of course you need to know the technical ins and outs to some degree to be able to capture the scene. But again, it's not really like what you're doing, right? Like when we look at our favorite photos from great photographers, we're not like, oh yeah, he or she really nailed the technical aspects of this shot. Actually, let's take a shot right here. I kind of like this view before we cross the street. This building looks really cool. I love the way the grid of the building then also kind of coincides with the stuff on the ground. All right, that's kind of cool. And then there was like a nice subject going through this couple. That was all right. So, as always, I've lost Axel. All right, but so yeah, let me just get my settings back in here. I was just saying settings don't really, not that important, but you do got to know them. You got to know, kind of lock that in mentally, so you don't have to waste time thinking about them. You just know what you need for whatever situation. So, yeah, when we look at the work of great photographers, we don't really think about, oh, the settings were perfect, right? We think about their vision, right? So it's more about how you see things and all that. So anyway, but then because that's so subjective and everybody has different opinions, so it's like, well, what does it mean to get better? And then recently I stumbled upon this nice Japanese concept. And of course, whenever you put a Japanese word on something, then it gives it this kind of mysterious sort of woo sort of feeling, right? Like now it's something magical, right? Because we put this Eastern term on it, right? Like when we did a video about Ichigo Ichie recently, and then also I talked about Ikigai in a previous video. These are actually pretty, honestly, down-to-earth concepts, but when you label them with a fancy term, a Japanese term, it sounds cool. So this one is called Shuhari. And what it means, like the three kanji, there's a meaning to them. I'm not gonna try to butcher it. I mean, I know it, but I don't want to mess things up. I'm just gonna put them on the screen, like a nice definition. But essentially it means something to protect, to break apart, and then eventually to leave behind, right? So it's kind of these three stages of mastery, right? Or getting good at things such as photography, right? And the three stages, essentially, like the first stage is essentially about, it says protect, right? So you're learning the rules or the ins and outs of whatever craft you're doing, in this case photography, and you're trying to protect those rules, right? You're abiding by the rules. You're doing what kind of people before you have set out as being like the way to do things, right? But then in the second stage, you eventually break the rules and you think, oh, I'm gonna go against the rule to kind of like do my own thing or do something different, right? But then because you're breaking the rule, you're still kind of bound by the rule, right? Because you're going against the rule, but there needs to be a rule to go against for that method to work. And then in the third stage, you're separating yourself entirely from the whole thing. It's kind of you're sort of transcending the rules, right? Or transcending the sort of norms of the craft. Essentially, I take it to mean you're kind of doing your own thing, right? Whether that thing has been done before or not is irrelevant. It's just you're choosing a path and you're following it. And I really like that. Again, pretty down-to-earth concept, but when you label it with a cool Japanese term, it's interesting. All right, so I'm going to talk more about these ideas in a second, but let's go through memory lane over here because this is kind of a classic Shinjuku spot, and it's been a while. That was a really cool little moment. This guy lighting his friend's rolled cigarette. In typical fashion, we lost each other. Oh, nice. I just realized they're posing for us for like a selfie or whatever.
เตียนไปแล้ว
It's so chaotic in here, hard to explain anything. But yeah, I figured we'd just pass through here, a little more just about the scenery than anything. Let's keep going, we'll get out. All right, so going through memory lane is a bit hackneyed, honestly, but you gotta go through it. It's on the way to where we really want to go, which is over there, more in Kabukicho. So yeah, and in a way, like, that kind of, it's a little bit different thing. It's more of a thematic choice than like a skill issue. But nonetheless, there's this kind of, you know, this sort of feeling that like, okay, like that street is super cliche. Like everybody goes there to take pictures. So in the beginning, when you start, let's move away actually from this noisy thing. In the beginning, when you start doing photography, you know, you gravitate towards things that are, you know, like how do I say, like attractive, like that, like famous. Like you think, oh, I want to go there. This is something really cool. Everybody shoots there. Maybe I want to go shoot there. So in a way, you're kind of like following the rules, in a sense, right? In a sense. This is not, again, not the best example. I'll have other examples later. But then you realize like, hey, this has been done. This is cliche. So I got to go against the rules. I got to go somewhere that no one's been. I got to find my own thing. And that's fine too. But I feel like eventually, to transcend the rules, you have to just like stop caring what other people have done and just think, hey, if I want to go through this famous place that's been done a million times, I can go through there. And actually, I've taken some great photos in there that are, in my opinion, not very cliche. Maybe they are, I don't know. I mean, that's not for me to judge if they're cliche or not. But the point is, like, I'm happy with those photos. They're not the obvious shots. They're not like, oh, just the view of the scenery, which I admit is a little bit done, like overdone. So, you know, I feel like that these three stages are kind of relevant here. But I think a better example is something like the rule of thirds or this kind of stuff, right? We learn these like compositional do's and don'ts, right? And I'm thinking in general, do's and don'ts are just a great example of this. Anytime somebody says, these are the do's and don'ts, those are rules, right? And then naturally the second stage is to eventually start breaking them. The third stage is to stop thinking about them entirely because they're not relevant, right? What you should be doing, or what you eventually do, not should be doing necessarily, but what you eventually do is you just do your art the way that makes sense to you. You don't need to think about what other people are doing or what is right or wrong or whatever. Let's pause here. I love this smoking area. I've been shooting around here a lot recently, and I'm always looking for some kind of cool moment in here. I love shooting through this glazed, well, not glazed, but like this glass with the texture on it, because it creates this kind of dreamy look. But it really matters who's in there and how close they are, and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. This is where sometimes the manual focus is better than autofocus. Let me see here. Yeah, there's nobody like in the light, but maybe this guy. Yeah, there's so many layers the camera basically cannot focus, but I can with manual focus. But it's okay. These people are not the best subjects in here. But I might throw up a recent photo that I took here, you know, on a different day in similar circumstances because I like this spot. But it is hit or miss, I admit. Yeah. All right, let's move on. Let's keep it moving. Make it as scenic as possible today. So like rules of thirds or rule of thirds, whatever, those kind of compositional rules, that's an example, right? And then also another way to look at it, and this is actually like something I mentioned in a video that we previously did that I called like how to get better at street photography. I believe that was the title, which is again a video that kind of made me trigger these thoughts. Like, well, why even get better, right? And in that video I said something like, well, pick your, like, you know, your favorite photographer, the master who you enjoy. I think in that example I used Saul Leiter because, let's go this way, because I really enjoy his work. And then you try to emulate it. You say, oh, I'm going to do similar things. So in a sense, you're like following the rules, or you're protecting the rules. That's the shu part of Shuhari. And then you eventually, maybe you break those rules. You think, oh, I'm going to do it kind of like what he does, but maybe something a little bit different, right? Let's go this way, okay? But then eventually, you need to just leave that behind and kind of go on your own path, right? So yeah, I've been kind of repeating myself here, but that made me kind of realize that that is actually what it means to get better at something. It's not to like hone your skills necessarily, right? It's to go to a level of something, or like a realm of the craft, right? That is sort of your own. But again, I don't think that necessarily means that it has to be completely unique. You don't have to forge something completely fresh. You could retread ground that others have tread, but you're there for your own personal reason. That's how I interpret it. And what I like about that, I mean, obviously, I like my own interpretation because it's my interpretation, but duh. But it ties into things I've said before about values in art and in creativity. Let's go in this little street. I love this little passage here recently. And that is that you have to just kind of figure out your own values, understand what matters to you in your art, and then apply those values. And to find those values, you may have to go through, in a sense, let's pause here, you may have to go through, in a sense, other people's values, meaning that like you have to learn what other people think is good art or whatever, and then you have to emulate them and copy them and duplicate to a degree what they do, and then you have to maybe break some of those rules, right? But eventually you have to do your own thing. So it's the same thing with the values is what I mean. You have to use their values to forge your own values, right? Oh, here we go. Here's a good subject coming down the street. This guy, beautiful. Oh, what a gorgeous silhouette. Yep, and that's nice too. Another one. Yeah, awesome. That guy in the coat was awesome. So another way to put it is kind of like, you know, if you're going to get better, if this idea of what does it mean to get better, or why even bother getting better, we tend to often, in my opinion, and this is how I started, we tend to think about it in other people's standards, meaning like you only use their values. You think, oh, if I'm going to get better, it means like other people will claim that my work is better, that people are going to like it more, right? I'm going to get more likes on Instagram, or I'm going to win a contest or something like that, right? But what I'm claiming is that that's not a good measure of it. What actually matters is, like, do you feel like you're going more into your own direction, right? And then are you more satisfied with your work, or creating values that are more, personal to you, rather than coming from somewhere else, right? That kind of thing. I think that's a good question to ask yourself when you're trying to be creative. Is like, when you look at your work, let's go this way, and then you kind of judge it yourself, because it's natural to judge your own work, right? You want to decide, like, you make a picture, you make a work of art, whatever, and then you have to tell yourself, like, ask yourself, like, is this good, is this bad, do I want to change something, do I want to go in this direction or a different direction or whatever. But I think it's important to note, like, well, by whose standards are you judging that? Are they your standards? And then, of course, again, nothing exists in a vacuum, so, you can't claim that it's purely your own standards, ever, probably. But nonetheless, is it mostly your standards, or are you just like looking at it through somebody else's eyes? Are you kind of in sort of a vicarious way, or like by proxy, sort of letting other people tell you what to do? I don't think that's good. I think it's important to kind of forge your own way and come up with your own way of thinking about creativity. And I feel like, in many ways, I kind of, let's go this way, repeat myself, because like this is similar to a recent video we've done. I'm kind of saying the similar things from different angles. And maybe that's just my bias is showing that, like, that's the way I like to think about things, so I always bring it back to that idea. But I don't know, I think it all just kind of makes sense to me. Oh, there's a thing around here I've been wanting to try. I mean, I've tried many times, but I've been wanting to get a good photo of this. It's just around here. This is 7-Eleven. And then there's like this piece of metal, and we can use it as a reflection. Right here. Those of you watching who've done one of our workshops recently with me and here in Shinjuku will probably have attempted this shot, maybe successfully, maybe not, I don't know. I'm still trying to get a really good subject in this scene coming out of this 7-Eleven. All right, well, let's move on. We'll go this way. So, yeah. And one thing, I'm not sure what this video's title is going to be, but I kind of preemptively in my notes sort of wrote down it's going to be something like, why get better at photography? Let's go this way into the light here. Like, why get better at photography? Or what does it mean to get better? Or something like that. And then when I was kind of brainstorming ideas for this, I was thinking, oh, this is really funny. we got Charles here in a workshop. Hey, Charles. Hey, man. I'll see you tomorrow. Very cool. It's very meta, right? Like, we're shooting a video, and then Charles is doing a workshop, right? Very cool, very funny. So, yeah, as I was brainstorming ideas for the video, and I was kind of taking notes, like, well, okay, let's answer that question, why? One of the answers that I came up with was just like, well, because learning is fun, and getting good at things is fun. And that's obvious. So I just want to, like, throw that out there, that you don't need this deep philosophical kind of, you know, is it even that deep? I don't know. But you don't need all my ramblings to justify why I get better at street photography or anything. Of course, it's just fun to learn things and get better at things and all that. I was more trying to just come at it from the angle of, like, you know, not just like, okay, it's fulfilling or enjoyable to get good at things and learn things, and we always, as people, kind of want to improve at things. It's just more like trying to kind of like pick this concept of getting better at something subjective like art and pick that apart. Because it's easy to understand getting better at something that's very like objective and can be calculated or measured, right? Like games or something, or sports, right? You know, you can see that you're improving, right? Like if you're or like a physical things, right? If you're like a sprinter and you're getting faster, you're getting better, right? Obviously. But then with photography or any kind of art, it's just like a little bit vague. It's like, does it really matter if I do it, you know, this kind of photo, a little bit better photo? So that's where I'm trying to have this kind of framework in my mind. And it works for me. It's kind of freed me up from the thinking of like, you know, this competitive thinking of like, oh, I got to get better, so I got to like prove something to other people, and then I need that feedback. I need people to tell me, oh, that's good, because if the camera just shook, it's just because Axel almost ate it on like a crack here on the street. That was scary. I thought I was gonna lose my partner here for a second. We had to go to the hospital. So anyway, it's like, am I letting other people judge my work for me, or am I just deciding it for myself, right? And I think the latter is better. I think you need to forge your own values and decide those things for yourself, and you yourself find reasons to improve in one direction or a different direction, or do things this way or that way, rather than having somebody, you know, somebody outside inform your decisions for you, your creative decisions. So, yeah, I think I've made myself clear, as I always do in these videos. I'm sure I've repeated myself a bit and said the same thing and kind of rechewed the fat in different phrasings of the same ideas. But partially that's because in my own mind, I'm kind of still figuring these things out and crystallizing them, and, you know, trying to understand these things for myself, right? And I'm just sharing my thoughts with you guys. And I like to do this kind of live way, well, not literally live, but, you know, off the cuff, rather than pre-planning and writing everything down, because I feel like it's just more organic and more real this way, more interesting. But anyway, we are now well deep in Kabukicho, so we're going to shoot around this area a little bit. And yeah, I'm still going to ramble about random stuff, but let's focus a little more on the photography here. All right, and so yeah, this is Kabukicho, and as we've joked a million times on this channel, we always end up in the red light district. And that's because it's interesting here. It's colorful. And Kabukicho is like the most interesting one. It almost feels a little different from Tokyo in general. Like it has a slightly different vibe here. And it's funny because Japanese people will tell you it's dangerous, and like, it's not. I mean, maybe it is more on statistically, but really it's not. All right, let's go this way. There's some things along here we can try shooting that I've had success with before, or maybe like not full success and want to try again. Or maybe we'll find something brand new. And then we'll see what we get. Okay, yeah, here we go. Here's a cool thing coming up. Well, actually, this is new. This place was recently renovated. And just like that very first scene, maybe not today because there's nobody in there, but I would love to get like a person's silhouette in that glazed glass there coming out. That would be absolutely awesome. So for now, I'm just going to shoot it like an empty scene because the colors are nice and pleasing. But yeah, definitely, whenever this business is, whenever it opens, it'll be better. And then want to try shooting something over here. There's like a little alleyway, and oh, there's like people in there. Oh, sick. Yeah, this is tricky because, so really what I like about this scene, what's drawn me to it before, is that there's this chance for this like cool shadow of a person on the wall when the light behind me is just right. Like this big screen needs to turn on and be very bright, and it's always changing. But then there's also these dudes in the background, like in this alley. So honestly, I'm gonna reposition a little bit. But it's tricky to get the framing just right. Oh, here we go, screen's on bright now. Now the question is, do I need a, a fast shutter here? Oh, that's pretty cool. Just letting people through. Oh, that was not a bad one. And then we get this guy buying a drink here. Oh, nice. That was pretty cool. I don't know what I'm getting. I'm just like snapping away. I forgot to turn the shutter sound on for you guys in this video, and also for myself when I'm editing this video later. It is now going to be tricky. Oh, that was good. To place the photos in the right time. Okay, I think we nailed it, but let's get one more. Oh, this dude leaving. Yeah, cool, cool. It's amazing how many fruits this scene seems to have borne. How many fruits it bore? I don't know. Okay, whatever. That's a weird phrasing. Trying to be poetic. But there was some good results. But let's keep going. I don't know if I got anything truly awesome. Conceptually, I think I got some cool stuff, but I don't know if I executed that perfectly. Right. And then you might think, so yeah, Lucas, you see then, so everything you said earlier, like, well, maybe it's because you lacked some sort of skill there and some technical expertise and ability that would allow you to capture this scene. And yeah, maybe that may be true. Like I said, I don't deny that there is just some like raw technical objective skill when it comes to photography, like controlling your camera, choosing the right settings, making the right decisions. But I think really what the issue there was that, like, I had to have seen that. And if I didn't see it, then I wouldn't be shooting it in the first place. Ooh, really quick, I'm gonna get a shot here. Just over Axel's shoulder. I love this taxi coming through. Wow, awesome. I just love, I mean, there's no real subject here except this taxi, but it looks so good in the light, and there's such chaos here right now with all the cars. I love it. I love when it's this chaotic. Let's look at it through the viewfinder. But I'm a little too far from everything for 28. Let's keep going. But that was kind of cool. Although now the light is really good. Oh, see, I was too slow. I didn't see it right away. But the screen behind me just illuminated this taxi really bright. All right, let's keep going. Yeah. いいですか? かっこいい。でももう一回タバコで。かっこいい。Well, whatever, このフィルターだけ。ありがとう、どうも。That was fun. Fun little moment. Did I get him? Yeah, see, I tend to do that. Like, I got him. Oh, hold on, maybe there's a moment here as well before I mention that. And these ladies are pretty cool with this neon-filled ramen shop. So I tend to do that. Like, if I see somebody cool like that, of course I just shoot. And that's why these days I tend to have my screen out, kind of shooting from a low angle like this. And then when people notice me, then I say, oh, hey, can I take your photo, Japanese, whatever. And then they say, sure. And then I take the post photos, but I already have the candid one. That's key. So you got to be quick. Get the candids. Because then the pose, even when I asked him to put the cigarette back in his mouth or whatever that was, the little e-cigarette thing, it wasn't the same. The natural moment before was, of course, better. And actually, well, let's shoot this cool ramen shop, but maybe from across the street. Yeah, because they installed this, they built this recently, and it's awesome. This cool red neon thing. But as I wait for maybe something cool to happen here, I'll just say that another aspect of this Shuhari concept is that it's not just about breaking the rules of other people, I find. Let me just time this lady. It's also about breaking your own rules, because when I started doing this stuff, you know, I kind of came up with some rules for myself, and then sometimes I would be kind of rigid. I would shoot things a certain way. And for just a very simple example, but I used to not shoot like this. In fact, at first, early on, I learned how to do like hip shooting with zone focus, and I would often just like shoot from the hip without even looking with my SLR, because there was no flip out screen or whatever. And then I kind of like moved away from that because I thought, a number of reasons, I don't need to make this video too long and explain them, but I just moved away from it and I started to shoot normally, it would be fine. And then I was like, okay, that's the way I'm going to do it. And then recently I've evolved again. I thought, you know what, I could combine the two approaches. I could see what I'm doing, but still shoot from this low angle like I used to from the hips, because I think it's a really nice perspective, and it allows me to be very fast, where if I see somebody, bam, I can get the shot. And I'm specifically mentioning this now because that's how I got the guy with the ciggy in his mouth. Let's keep going a little bit this way. So, you know, again, being flexible and breaking rules, and then eventually transcending rules, meaning not even worrying about shooting this way or that way or which method, just do whatever works, rather than like limiting myself and saying, oh, I have to do it this way because of some reason or some, you know, whatever, right? Or because I've always done it that way and I have like a tradition, right? That's the idea. It's about breaking with tradition is part of this. I said break the rules, but another way to translate is break with tradition. Anyway, let's maybe shoot one last thing over here. I always love this bright, chaotic area. This side of the street, this lady running. I missed it. I totally missed it. The screen was off, camera was asleep, and it turned on really fast, but it was enough of a lag that I missed the moment. But that's okay. All right. Anybody cool over here? This dude is cool. Yeah, it's okay. A little messy scene. It looks kind of nice, maybe with a bit of a crop on that one. Actually, that's cropping. That's another example. I used to be like adamantly against cropping. I thought like, you don't crop. I don't want to crop. And partially because I learned that from other people, I just kind of internalized, well, actually just taking risks, running across red lighted streets, wow. So yeah, like I used to think to myself, okay, I can't crop. If I crop, I'm doing something wrong because other people said so. But then I kind of internalized that and said, that's my rule as well. I want to avoid cropping. And now these days, partially because the sensors and the resolution, you know, the resolution's gotten big, so I feel more freedom to crop. But also just because I just let that go. I realized, what's the difference? Why is this even a rule? Who cares if you crop or don't crop? Of course, I don't try not to use it as a crutch, but I openly accept this as a possibility to create my art, right? And that's ultimately what it comes down to, guys. Create your art the way you want to create it, transcend the rules, and be your own master, right? All right, on that note, in this busy, chaotic area, we're gonna end this video. Of course, thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna breeze through it. Thank you so much for watching. Book our workshops, buy the map, support us on Patreon. Thank you for everything. Check out my book, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Challenge your eye.